Game number 2, whichever way it goes here. Mouse trying to bring us to a game 3. Mouse going to opt for the first pick, and of course the first ban. Obey on the other side. So very curious, do they ban the Zeus here?
Banning Zeus, I'm pretty confident that the majority of Obey's wins that they have had in the summer split have come while PrettyPriMe was on Zeus. And I'm not saying that there's a correlation between the two, but
I am.
There's a correlation between the two.
Hey man, remember me and Kret used to have a talk show. The very first talk show that I ever did after first period was called Ban Zeus. Just gotta ban this character sometimes. When Zeus is good, he feels too good. And just,
it's not even that, like, Zeus is the ultimate mid laner right now either. I just think that Obey are really strong at playing around this particular style of utility but damage oriented. And Zeus, as long as you get a fairly stocky front line, you're usually just going to be prioritizing peel and just the survivability aspects of the Zeus. You want to make sure that your Zeus is nice and healthy throughout duration of most of those team fights, or that he's at least able to get his kit off. As long as you can throw out the chain lightning, get the detonate going with that storm on the ultimate, you're typically going to be in a good spot whether your Zeus stays alive or not.
Well, Obey not going to go for the Zeus just yet. Cherryo and Athena, which are probably strong picks in their own right. Cherryo with the global, Athena can follow him, and Medusa going to be the hunter of choice as Mouse pick their mid laner, Discordia. So Mouse have set themselves up to face against Zeus again. Obey can totally pick him here, and they will. And I think that is objectively the right call. Mouse know that Zeus is being picked here. So my question, or more statement to you, Taco, is Mouse think they can beat the Zeus?
Yes.
How?
Because look at the top 3 that they have opted for. You've got the Cerberus, Discordia, Medusa. Cerberus is there to try and pull the Zeus out of position, or at the very least pull his actives, whether it's a Purification Beads or the Aegis, doesn't matter. Typically, you're going to expect to see, I think, the Zeus ulting defensively if the Cerberus decides to try and full and commit. That way, Obey can try and look for some turn and burn features. It could be difficult for Cerberus to find an opening to collapse onto the Zeus simply because of the fact that they do have the Athena. They also have the turn to box, so there's that little bit of global pressure that's going to make it a bit complicated for Mouse. But Discordia and Medusa, these are the 2 carry picks that I think are especially important against the Zeus. Discordia and Medusa can both hit from a range. Acid Spray and Petrify going to be very useful in terms of just trying to help control the Zeus, or at least space Obey away from Mouse whenever that Zeus ultimate comes through, because you don't want to try and all-in commit. You can't lose track of the moment and get too tunnel vision. Otherwise, you're just going to eat that Petrify right to the face.
And Mouse continuing their composition to really deal with Zeus. I think Hun Bats is one of the better options to deal with Zeus. Naja also, but Hun Bats here, you basically have 2 different thought processes. Either you kill Zeus before he gets the detonate off, and that's where you look to the Mercuries and the Najas of the world, or you crowd control him until he's dead. And Fear No Evil is absolutely going to do that. What happens if he uses, his CC immunity as beads? Cerberus and Hun Bats are going to work out really well together. And if you get Bacchus belly flopped, you're probably just dead before you get to export your damage. I love this draft from Mouse, full stop.
This was just really well drafted by Mouse because they have so much control. And Obey, while there's a decent bit of control also between the Athena and the Xing 10, I think that it's just too easily interrupted by the hard crowd control that Mouse have going for them. Fear No Evil, Stingent Torment, even the Bacchus belly flops into Intoxicate. More importantly, it's the Intoxicate that I think is going to be huge, because if that hits onto a Naja, even that tick right before you go into the CC immunity of the Fire and Wheels ultimate, it's just, you don't know if you're going to be going straight, because you might turn a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, and I think that could pose some issues for CaptainTwig here.
This is a top tier draft coming out from Mouse for the scenario. If they can convert this on the field, I mean, I've been saying I think Mouse is the top team. This is the way a top team drafts. Is it the way a top team plays? Let's find out. Game number 2, Mouse, Obey, on the way.
Thanks again, Tom and Taco, Finch and Toley for Game 2. And I like that Tom was talking about how he thinks of them as a top team. They've got that on the line here, I feel like. A chance to prove they really are up there in that upper echelon. They got to win the set to do it, though.
I mean, a team that beats Energy twice, 2 sets
consistently,
rather, in the summer split, one time during the spring, is definitely up for discussion about being a top team. They just need to be more consistent. Their mechanics are certainly there. Their strategies are certainly there with how they establish leads and carry them into victory. But they need to do it against more than just a couple of teams.
You got to be able to make sure they're doing it consistently. That's really how you earn the votes of those in Mixer Chat, isn't it? Totally by repeatedly winning games. And who do you think's going to win the game here this time? Go ahead and vote for us now in that Mixer Chat and let us know.
I think that between the second game, Obey has a lot of momentum after this last one. Even though it lasted a little long time, the way that they ended it was just pure dominance there.
Yes.
Since that 4-minute turnaround when they defended their Tier 1 mid tower, really putting Mouse against the ropes, there was no potential comeback from there.
Yeah, and that game was only a little bit longer just because Obey played at their own pace, I believe, right? I mean, so, no, it wasn't a 23-minute match, but I think it was perhaps as dominant as some of the 23 matches that we've seen because of just how cleanly Obey played it.
Plucking one Phoenix at a time.
That's what they did.
As we head into game number 2, though, seeing Spudio on his Medusa. Not a late game goddess by as much as a Chernobog is with the attack speed steroid, but Viper shots can certainly start swinging if you don't have that physical defense.
Yeah, there's some potential for Spudio and Dardez to potentially bully this lane out. Now, yes, the belt can get interrupted if a taunt comes out, but not really much you can do to interrupt belly flop, as that's what Dardez selected here early to go with. Raffer moving forward, trying to clear the way, but Spudio appears to be out-trading him at least for now. Meanwhile, Dardez is going to do the same in the back.
Hard to really fight these supports, man. Both of these supports are just hitting the other Hunter, getting them away from the wave to start things off. So Raffer getting the better end of that, but now he doesn't have his dash forced to go into the shell.
Oh, a little bit of miscommunication there, too, as the sprint comes out, but Spudio did not really want to go aggressive. They end up falling back. Curious, too. Perhaps they could have gotten him only about one other minion wave there, and the shell had already come out, but instead they decided to be safe.
Even with the sprint allowing them to go a little bit more north in the wave, or the lane rather, you're going to encounter Obey's wave, so you don't necessarily want to go too far north, especially without any eyes on CaptainTwig. Look where he is on the minimap, invading the dual lane side buffs.
This has been their continual strategy, hasn't it been, to be aggressive in the enemy jungle, and Twig putting that on display. Cherryo has his beats forced out very early. Prime right there with the follow-up damage, so Cherryo and Tingz have to fall back. Ring bounce, great ability. And Universal Ring Toss as it continues to do good damage.
A lot of bounces for Obey between the Zeus, between the Naja. If there's any a 2-on-2 between Cherryo and Big Man versus Twig and PrettyPriMe, I'd be shocked if Obey don't win it.
No, with all that damage, they could pretty easily bounce between them. You're right. It's so difficult. And CaptainTwig and Prime, you can trust that they'll make the best of them. So comfortable on these two gods, especially. CaptainTwig often plays this Naja. We just saw what PrettyPriMe can do on the Z-Man, and likely he'll be keeping that going, man. Too bad Aggro's off this week, huh? He'd be loving this.
He will love this set, man. What a missed opportunity. Sucks to be that guy, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, just in general, it does, but especially now, you're right, yeah.
Wow. Indie Man is really roughing up on you every time.
It's been crazy these last few weeks. I don't even know what's going on, man. I don't know.
In the duo lane,
the Hindu effect.
Dardez and Spudio encounter no one, while Ataraxia and Raffer securing the oracles for that 1-minute vision. Doesn't really matter too much about the vision considering Gold Fury doesn't spawn until the 5-minute mark, but any sort of gold you can min-max is important.
That's true, and it could potentially spot out CaptainTwig. You know, you don't like to route through that pit for exactly that reason, but once he recognizes they have that vision control there, if he wants to take that path that's not really available, or else they'll know exactly what's up, so it could potentially give him some glance, but you're right. Mostly that's there to have uncontestable knowledge of who's going for the gold free, and right now that don't matter too much as Cherryo continues to kind of just farm his lane. We saw him last time on the Odin and thought maybe that the Odin might not have had enough pressure. Do you think that that was the problem, and is that fixed by going with the Unbox?
I think it definitely took him too long to really get the stacks that he wanted on the Transcendence, and it was getting negated quite heavily, the damage. Either way, I like what Dardez is doing here, by the way, hogging the back of the purple buff, because if he went around the purple north or even south, he would not have been in range to get those experienced archers.
That's right. Sometimes we see them when they don't even clear the wave, they just go for purple instead and kind of let the wave die to the tower while they're clearing the buff. You can still kind of hug that back wall and still be gaining some of that experience in gold, so you don't miss out too much. Dardez showing some of that knowledge there just to make sure he doesn't miss out, and he's chugging away already. We don't see a ton of Bacchus, but we do see him occasionally, and Dardez, definitely one of those players that can bring a lot out of this pick.
About 100 experience per minute difference between these two mid laners. BigManTingz can't really keep up in the farming category. iRaffer getting a little aggressive in this duo lane. PrettyPriMe chasing Cherryo away from his own jungle.
Cherryo, what do you... my man is very far.
Hey, he's just doing what CaptainTwig did on his side of the map.
That's fair, I guess, right? The only place where there's farm up is on Twig's side, because he's always in the order side jungle. So, yeah, I guess you're right.
Trying to make any sort of farming happen. BigManTingz securing the back right camps, setting up for his own speed buff. I'm curious to see how aggressive Mouse is going to be once they hit level 5. Petrify and Intoxicate does so much burst damage.
It really is a lot all at once, and it's not particularly hard to confirm either, right? The big AoE around Bacchus for Intoxicate and the Petrify is a large cone as well, so it's pretty confirmable damage that they can grab. But totally, I'm glad you pointed out Cherryo's pathing, because XP-wise, he's struggling behind CaptainTwig here so far. Only just ticked over to level 5, over 100 behind his opponent in the jungle right now. So level 6 was Twig when Cherryo was only level 4.
That's the advantage of just, stripping away the buff camps of your enemy side to start off the game. Knowing that you still have your own red, purple, and speed blue to work with. You have so many options, and CaptainTwig taking a step in the next stages of the beginning of the game.
I like this, though. As soon as the Defender of Olympus comes out, Sash is in. Not quite able to time it perfectly as Dardez jumps away, but they are going to be able to grab. I guess you can call it their own purple buff at this point because they're here so often, but they strip it away from the order side and move on towards those oracles.
It also hurts out Dardez. Not just the experience department, but not having that extra penetration or doesn't allow this combo, this Intoxicate Petrify, to really bringing the damage. But Ataraxia sitting at about 75% health. If he's not careful, he could fall.
Dardez gets taunted back in, but it's iRaffer who ends up petrified as Spudio drops that big-time ult. Ataraxia has to dash away after getting intoxicated. Even though Dardez got initiated on, it's Mousesports who control the lane now. Those were the two big ultimates you were just talking about, Toli, showing them off.
Shusa Focus getting a little bit of a buff of 10 magical power is able to help that Intoxicate a little bit. Not having the penetration, I don't really mind, considering that cooldown reduction is a great idea for any Guardian. It's so difficult to find cooldown reduction in a support build where you have so many auras to decide if you want to go for a selfish build such as a Height of Urshan or a Spirit's Robe. But in that case, you're going to still get that 10% CDR, but getting it this early for cheap, Dardez can be looking for a lot of plays.
Bacchus is one that really likes to have that cooldown reduction. He really wants to have that Intoxicate up as often as he can. It can be such a big tool in teamfights, not just because it can kind of confirm some low health targets, but I mean, it's a huge disruption factor when you have that Intoxicate on you and you're moving every which way and really have no control over where you're going.
Cherryo going to be able to secure his own blue buff. Haven't really seen too much action between these two solo laners. Cerberus versus the Xing Chen. It feels like this Zangief versus E Honda matchup where everyone's just like kind of slapping each other around.
Pretty good analogy, as Xaliea and Nika had a slow start to the last game, at least in terms of how much they were fighting. They really kind of were leaving each other to their own devices, as Twig and Xaliea are going to grab their own blue buff. No real invade attempts coming out there. Cherryo is level 7 now, though, as we follow along with him for a moment. Has the ultimate. Fear No Evil is a big engage tool. Once bots hits level 5, usually you see him kind of hit that gas button, but Cherryo been playing it patiently. Does he have a good target to go in on this Fear No Evil?
He does, and it's going to be whenever iRaffer dashes in, because without Blink, Cherryo is going to wait for the offensive plays from a bait alliance to react to accordingly.
That could be a great counter-initiation tool. We've seen that become a strategy, I feel like, a little bit more as Athena has risen in prominence. She's so strong right now with her taunts, with the Defender of Olympus to get her around the map. We've seen sometimes Cerberus just ult the second she dashes in to try and stop her from taunting. This could be a very similar idea as Fear No Evil comes around on PrettyPriMe. Beats come out right away. Defender of Olympus and Lightning Storm have to be used in response.
Cherryo actually messed up his teleport because it bounced off the Zeus into the Archer, so he couldn't time it fast enough. Maybe that extra basic attack would have crit to find the lethal there, but difficult to say seeing that Defender of Olympus was used. But One Fear No Evil trading out for a Defender of Olympus and a Lightning Storm feels good for Obey.
CaptainTwig knocked up, intoxicated, and stunned. Spudio comes in to finish that one off. That's first blood, 8.5 minutes into this game, going over the way on Mousesports. And last game, to go back to that kill we just saw in mid lane, PrettyPriMe eventually just got to the point where he's comfortable and able to do damage safely enough. I like Cherryo trying to pressure him early, but I mean, isn't enough. I mean, beads and he's out of there.
It's true. It allows Nika to also use the Stygian Torment whenever he wants. Spudio going to use his Petrify to immune the taunt. And a second kill for Mousesports. Second one going to Spudio. This is the same way that Ataraxia got off to a great start in the first game.
This is an absurd amount of damage between the Medusa and the Bacchus. I mean, especially with that belly flop, it does so much. It's so much nice damage, such good confirm, and Spudio can kind of link that with the lacerate too. Dashes in, does even more damage, and gets that little bit of a mini sort of stun or root on the back end of that, where he's able to chain even more damage in. So Spudio really in a good spot here, already 2-0-0.
Xaliea actually walks away from the circle, which resets the blue buff. Unfortunate for him there. But yes, the Medusa does a lot of damage. You don't necessarily always have to put it in the mid lane just because it has a lot of scaling off of its abilities. It's a great way to get lane dominance in the dual lane. I like the fact that Spudio timed his Petrify perfectly to avoid the taunt from iRaffer, to give himself that CC immunity. And even if the Athena doesn't get petrified to stone right off the bat, just that 50% damage is good enough to blow her up with Dardez's damage from the Bacchus.
Even in a slow. It's pretty good even if you don't get the stun.
Yep.
It's a good ability. And Spudio is certainly putting it on display here right now in this duo lane as he comes back in up against Ataraxia, who is still XP ahead of him, and even though he's down in the terms of kills. And that could just happen because Turnabout can come back in so much easier than you with his ultimate.
It's very true. It's what Ataraxia is really looking for, honestly, but needs to make it happen more often. CaptainTwig caught without beads, and he's going to go to the grave.
CaptainTwig was there, I'm certain of it, and he is no longer. Prime now forced to retreat as well as Cherryo rotates in. This is some of that pressure we were saying we needed to see from the Yun bots. Fear No Evil and Dardez right there with the belly flop are more than enough to cause some problems. And they want the speed buff. iRaffer's here, though. They certainly know that this invade's happening.
Trying to defend. Going to avoid the overhand smash, and that's a lot of confirmed damage on the speed buff. iRaffer has a small timing to steal that one away, but not going to secure his own speed buff. Cherryo actually picking that up, forces Ataraxia to go in the sky.
Goes back in just to make sure he can grab it. Ataraxia can't find the root, but has Defender of Olympus, so he's going to continue the chase. iRaffer, it seems like he doesn't have the dash taunt available as Cherryo continues to run. Meanwhile, Dardez meets up with Xaliea in the jungle, but it's Nika who's in trouble. The collapse is on in a big way. He jumps over the wall, detonate charge hits. Xaliea is going to catch him out as well. Nika falls over to the enemy solo laner.
Furious Roar doing a lot of damage. A clean pick as Obey Alliance now go on the board. That speed buff just took a little bit too long to confirm. Nika overstepping his boundaries, and this is what makes Obey such a dominant team. Even though they're behind in the kill counter, they always look for the objectives that are open.
BigManTingz already dropped the apple. Dardez gets taunted back in, but no one else has follow-up. They're going to let this Bacchus go and just disengage for now. But that's one of those feel-bad deaths, right, where Nika wasn't even really a part of the play. He kind of rotates in because it takes so long, like maybe I can help out. But in the end, he's the one that gets collapsed on because he's last to rotate over. If he had just been more selfish and minded his own business, he'd have probably been fine, but he wanted to try and come help and gets punched.
I like the fact that he was rotating to it, but he needs to know when to disengage from it as well. He was trying to find a stun in the backline, and then everyone else from Obey recognizing that they couldn't catch Cherryo, and then there's an out-of-position doggo on the right side of the map.
Bad dog in that situation, so they send him back to the pound. Cherryo yet again in the enemy jungle, looking around. No red buff for him to invade, and Ataraxia has just grabbed his own purple. They lost that tier 1 in duo, so Ataraxia can farm a little bit more safely now as Nika has to blink over the wall to get away from Xaliea. But of course, it's Nika who's in Xalea's jungle, undeterred after that previous death.
Surprised Nika even used the blink, like a little bit of damage from a Xing Chen. Not the end of the world, considering there's still 3 health chalice stacks from Nika. If anything, you want to kind of use that to disengage from CaptainTwig.
Looks like they want to try and aggress on the PrettyPriMe, though, who's without beads for another 80 seconds. The pings are coming out. I think they recognize where this aggression's happening. Nika being forced out now by Xaliea. Not going to be able to find him with the Stygian Torment, but Tingz and Dardez are waiting too. If they can just find one opportunity, they can absolutely punish Prime.
iRaffer got rooted, took a little bit of poke, but they know where BigManTingz is traveling, trying to catch him off guard. That's why Spudio and Cherryo covering the options. Big Man trying to connect onto Ataraxia. Cherryo missing his overhand smash. Xaliea is here for the collapse.
BigManTingz gonna try and juke around inside that stealth. The Apple of Discord to grant him a little bit of CC immunity, and iRaffer's already fallen. Aegis keeps him alive. Knock up into the Petrify, controls Xaliea, and gets BigManTingz out of trouble. CaptainTwig is the next one in trouble, but there's nowhere for the Naja to go. Double kill for Spudio. Mousesports turn things around, but Ataraxia has rejoined the fray.
Oh, Nika couldn't really save his mid laner's life. PrettyPriMe, though, gets body block to high heavens. PrettyPriMe surviving for a little bit with the Aegis, but it won't be to any success. 4 for 1 at the end of the day. Only finding BigManTingz. Mousesports now confirmed the gold.
And an unofficial triple in there for Spudio as well. Things only get worse in terms of this Medusa as they make this 1,000 net gold before they even have the gold Fury. Mousesports bounce back in a big way. This is why we said that they've been rising, that they're on even footing with this Obey team, bouncing back after a tough Game 1 loss. So Mousesports look undeterred and are playing this composition perfectly.
BigManTingz was dangling himself in front of Obey long enough, like a juicy piece of meat, that everybody wanted to take a bite. CaptainTwig missed his ultimate. Xaliea was peeled perfectly by Dardez's knock-up into the Petrify of Spudio. And that was a quick pick onto this level 14 Xingqian that doesn't even have that much realistic health to survive all the damage from BigManTingz or Nika.
Now, Tully, I'm not surprised this Mousesports roster or that this draft they have is doing well in the mid game, but can they transition to the late game well enough, or do they need to be really far ahead? I mean, Obey have Chernobog, Athena, Zeus. I mean, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good, but Mousesports have the experience lead. If they do let Obey catch up in the experience department, I still think that they can fight into it. Dardez has plenty of damage to return the favor, can zone away PrettyPriMe long enough to prevent that magical damage from even being a factor. It's all about how they can peel for each other. Obey Alliance not making it happen on the offensive. It's time to see how well their defenses are.
Already going on aggressive is Dardez. CaptainTwig not able to get that back timer off as he falls back. Didn't have beads available, but is still going to be okay anyway. They're picking out Ataraxia. Cherryo loops around. Fear no evil forces the ultimate out. The apple is on him. That should pop either way. BigManTingz brings him down from the sky. Already a 5v4.
That was a good timed ultimate as well. Not using his defensive relics. BigManTingz gets taunted out there. Gets in a little bit of a spin cycle. There goes the chain lightning damage. BigManTingz falls.
Spudio in a little bit of trouble. PrettyPriMe finds a double kill on the Zeus. Jumping over the wall is Cherryo. He is able to get CaptainTwig and return that favor, but Dardez might end up falling to iRaffer, who's looking to clean him up on the backside. Dash off the mark. Reach cannot land either, and they might have saved Dardez's life. Now Nika and Cherryo can collapse onto the support. Xaliea and PrettyPriMe can't get here in time. Cherryo grabs Athena.
iRaffer's just running away from his teammates the whole entire time. He keeps going south instead of going behind the Gold Fury and going north. PrettyPriMe and Xaliea could have easily helped out their support. A huge disconnect between Obey and their support player that was super extra greedy, trying to kill out Dardez that wasn't really in range of that the dash, and eventually even juking it out in the first place.
But as you highlighted, the defense for Obey clearly stronger than the offense, or at least PrettyPriMe was able to place that lightning storm very well in that fight. He's changed up the build a bit from Game 1. He's gone with that Wing Blade in that third item slot to try and get him away from all these slopes.
Wing Blade is a great idea, honestly, because you're looking specifically on Nika. Nika's going to be trying to blink into the backline, get the ghastly breath off, and that if that's going to happen, that's what you're looking for to disengage from. Also, Dardez, if he hits the belly flop, with him being intoxicated, is going to provide a little bit of a slow afterwards. And also the health that it provides. If you're looking for more health, it's a very cheap item with a lot of health.
And it also has just base movement speed, even when you're not proccing that slow immunity. So he's just going to be a little bit faster as he moves around. That's what the two used to do anyway. Maybe PrettyPriMe trying to be like a little bit like old Zeus here as Cherryo yet again loops around. He has been looping on the backside. This time Fear No Evil a little bit too early, so they're not stuck inside it for very long. And the collapse might be on the other direction this time as they look for Cherryo on the back end.
Oh, you can't run away from the living nightmare, though. Although he blinks away after the shadow was already applied. Xaliea getting caught out. He jumps away right before the petrify occurs.
And now look where Cherryo is. He's on his way to come join the fray like he never left. They do drop down the apple. That doesn't hit much of anybody, so Xaliea will survive. But we cannot say the same for iRaffer, who comes over and the Defender of Olympus. Junglers are going to meet up here in the jungle. Cherryo so far getting the better of the trade. A nice sash from Twig to up the overhand smash, but he misses the Windfire wheels. Cherryo gets out of dodge.
He needed to hit that because in the ground would have been PrettyPriMe waiting for a juicy target. Dardez goes in, blink, intoxicate.
Oh, no.
CaptainTwig without his ultimate gets the ring bounce off though in one basic attack. Dardez says sit down.
I don't know, man. That didn't look like a very comfortable fight from CaptainTwig on the Naja overall, but in the end he gets punished. Dardez finds a great belly flop. They find another kill as well. They even grabbed the Pyromancer, I believe, when they were chasing Cherryo on the left-hand side of the map. Tier 1 tower in mid still stands. They'd rather come strip away this jungle instead, but Mousesports appear to be in control, at least for now.
They're getting a little bit of a lead, about 5,000 gold, 19.5 minutes in. It's getting a little scary, especially if they can confirm this Gold Fury that just respawned.
Yeah.
Without CaptainTwig here for about 5 more seconds, this could be Mousesports to take.
This is such a different build from Prime this time. Now the Obsidian Shard, where he had Spear of Desolation in that last game, where he went all in on these big, expensive magical damage items. This time it's a much more cost-effective build to sort of get him through this mid-game.
Trying to survive is the name of the game. There's just a few blinks you got to worry about. Nika, Cherryo, Dardez, so much damage.
It's a lot, isn't it?
About to hit the Zeus right in the face. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for more survivability, maybe even the Spirit's Robe.
And that really is what the draft does so much better for them this time. And you heard the Death sort of highlighting it. The Bacchus, Cherryo, they're all very adept at getting to that backline and making PrettyPriMe uncomfortable and not letting him free cast. This Gold Fury, though, that's just free for Mouse. I mean, Obey can't even make their way in. Now this gold lead's starting to become a problem.
Thought they would have gotten it a little earlier with CaptainTwig still being dead, but wanted to clean up some buffs beforehand, going for the Tier 1 tower that's on its last legs. Dardez jumping onto iRaffer. Nika with the Stygian Torment, catching 2.
That's going to pull everybody back in. Whirlwind of Rage and Steel's going to throw Nika underneath the Tier 1, but he still has the jump. Fear no evil hits 2. Xalia's low, but Lightning Storm zones everyone else away. Cherryo is able to jump away, but we can't say the same for CaptainTwig. BigManTingz is the one that comes in and puts him down. Cherryo on the right-hand side is low, but the Tier 2 tower in mid, there's no one there to help.
Man, CaptainTwig just can't catch a break against Dardez's Bacchus. Getting last hit by him 2 deaths ago sets up the kill for Spudio on this one. And Mousesports looking so clean after the Gold Fury into 2 towers, building a pretty convincing 9,000 gold lead now.
They come out of that one 2 for 0, and they got the Fire Giant in their sights now. Nika does get knocked up, but hey, nobody saw as Obey Alliance are on their way to try and defend. They didn't have Cherryo and Dardez there, so they didn't feel comfortable all-inning it, and Obey are on their way back in to try and defend for now.
They're just kind of waiting for Dardez to come in to tank this one. Nika wants to be the zoner to get off a lot of damage. More burst damage coming from a level 18 Cerberus as opposed to level 14 support Bacchus, but instead going to slow down the pacing. 9,000 gold lead is pretty good and fine and dandy, but without any sort of fire minions trickling down, I think that Obey Alliance are still in a comfortable position to defend this one with all the AoE damage from the Zeus.
I think they certainly are, and PrettyPriMe could be a big part of that one, but we were just talking about how well Dardez has been playing. As iRaffer gets caught a little bit out of position here. Fear no evil gets baited out from Cherryo. If iRaffer can survive, this is a win in of itself, but he cannot. Wow. Cherryo gets the kill. They delayed him before he even gets the ultimate off.
That's 2 ultimates being used, Discordia and the Hunt Bats. Obey Alliance with iRaffer dead for 30 seconds. They can force a fight 4-on-5 as iRaffer's respawning and look to use that Defender of Olympus to turn the tides.
That could be a big deal for him. Cherryo does have a good bit of cooldown in that build, as does BigManTingz, so they might have their ultimates back up, but not before iRaffer has rejoined the fray. Depending on when this starts, it might favor them, but take a look at these damage charts. I mean, Dardez is doing a great job on this Bacchus, 2-0-10, and even ahead of Twig, Xaliea, and Ataraxia.
He's just a Bacchus trying to make a name for himself in the world. Mousesports pulls the gold or the Fire Giant. Xaliea very
nice
low
ult.
already. CaptainTwig forced to use that ultimate defensively. Up in the sky goes Ataraxia, but he's not landing on anybody.
iRaffer falls very early on. Ataraxia drops in, but it's just the wrong spot. He gets immediately Batista bombed and removed from the game. PrettyPriMe is going to be the next target. He does have the purification beads, but it's not long enough. Double kill for Cherryo. 3 for 0. Mousesports doing whatever they want.
Go for the Fire Giant straight away. Convince us that you are the team that we think you are. Mousesports making it really happen after that team fight.
Fire Giant should be going down to Mouse very easily. And we talked about how iRaffer should be able to sort of come back in on the Defender of Olympus, right? Even though he was killed earlier, it wouldn't hurt them too much as they're being very patient. Now they take down the FG. But that just didn't really work out for them. He's the first one that ends up falling again in that fight. Then Ataraxia comes in on his ultimate all alone, ends up dying as well. I mean, Mouse, they win that fight so cleanly.
Stone of Binding onto iRaffer is the reason why he's not really surviving a lot of these fights. Has a little bit of protections, not too much to really talk about, but it's more about setting up his team for the penetration. Right, getting that 15 penetration for his teammates afterwards, coupled with CaptainTwig's ring bounces, is setting up PrettyPriMe for a little bit of damage, but he's trying to run away more than anything.
Big time crit coming out from Cherryo as he catches up with CaptainTwig, trying to grab the tier 1 tower in duo lane. Twig will get that tower, but Cherryo will make him trade his life away to get it done. Only one tier 2 standing for Obey Alliance, and Mousesports look ready to knock it down and move on to some Phoenixes. They've still got plenty of time on the Fire Giant. They've got everybody healthy and ready to push. And Obey Alliance got to find a way to slow down this Mouse squad.
I don't know how Obey really can, unless that Mousesports overextend during some of these Phoenix sieges and just kind of AFK for a couple of seconds inside PrettyPriMe's ultimate. But other than that, Mousesports should be able to seal the deal with a commanding 13,000 gold lead. 25 minutes in, this is almost the same exact position that Obey was in the first game.
Yeah, it's very mirrored from last game, right? Mousesports eventually just group up and start fighting around this Bacchus, around Spudio, was able to get a nice early lead around Cherryo's Fear No Evil. And since that grouping, Obey Alliance haven't really had any answers. But they're going to need to come up with them very, very quickly as Mouse are ready to start pushing into the Phoenix. 2-man taunt. Petrify comes out in response. Twig waiting patiently on the right-hand side, but it's Cherryo who goes in looking for Prime.
A nice ultimate coming from Xaliea pushes Nika even further into the Phoenix. No survival for him, but Cherryo already found PrettyPriMe in the back.
It's been 1 for 1 so far. Solo laner for mid laner, and Mouse have got to feel like they've come out the better, at least so far, without having to worry about that Zeus damage. They've got another minion wave moving up. Spudio, perfectly healthy, has both his relics. It could feel comfortable putting in damage.
Should be a clean engage rather onto Ataraxia in the backline. Dardez finds the belly flop into the stun. iRaffer gets rooted into place. Spudio in the backline. He gets taken up in the sky by Twig.
The beads were already forced earlier, and Twig immediately picked his target. Defender of Olympus is going to remove him from the map. Cherryo wants Ataraxia, but Aegis is just that little bit better. An auto attack comes in to clean him up, and Twig comes in and returns that favor as well, but Strife takes down Xaliea. It's a constant trade back and forth. 2v2 left. BigManTingz and Dardez are healthy. Knockup is there. Unruly Magic to follow up. The stun hits Dardez, but Twig has to retreat.
The root misses, but there comes the ultimate. It bounces in the wrong direction. Twig able to survive. iRaffer leading the charge. Taunts out Big Man. Ring bounces connect. PrettyPriMe looking for the damage under the cloud.
PrettyPriMe was removed very early on, but now he's rejoined the fray. Dardez and Nika working in tandem. Remove Prime yet again. Now Stygian Torment brings Twig right back to the rest of the squad. Unruly Magic might not land, but Strife is good enough. Only iRaffer left standing up against 3. Dardez gonna force him out. Phoenix on the left-hand side can no longer stand.
That fight lasted so long that both PrettyPriMe and Nika revives. Nika with the teleport, making a statement happen, and Dardez doing so much work. He stuns out CaptainTwig with the Belch of the Gods, and if he wanted to, he could have killed CaptainTwig with the belly flop right there. He was in that lethal range zone, but instead, Dardez has the presence of mind to look across the way that BigManTingz was in more trouble during his own Aegis Amulet, so he swaps targets onto PrettyPriMe for the belly flop right before the detonate was going to end Big Man's life.
Dardez is playing well. This Mousesports squad really goes up to another level. I don't know if any other support has as much sway over how well their team does as Dardez, but I mean, I feel like when he's playing at this level, that's when Mouse truly kind of rise up and can challenge those top 3, top 4. Mouse looking comfortable. They still haven't won this game yet, but they're in a good spot. They grabbed the Phoenix on the left-hand side, but Obey did not make it easy.
Definitely did not make it easy. I think Nika went a little bit too deep there. Yeah, why not?
I mean, yeah, why not?
You do so much damage.
What a nightmare.
It's going to hurt, man. That Belch of the Gods, it's no joke.
You really don't want to get belly flopped with that. You really don't want to get intoxicated with that proc. I mean, Dardez trying to end somebody. Blink intoxicate. That's going to ruin somebody's day.
Yeah, he's on a whole other level. With 235 power also, some of his abilities scale fairly well.
About 70%, yeah, on a lot of them. That's pretty good.
Not too shabby, especially considering he has the Stone of Binding to give himself and his teammates that 15 penetration off of literally any of his abilities minus the Chug.
That's right. Everything he does is his CC, isn't it? Bacchus is one of those gods that has a lot of tools. Fire Giant not going to be defended by Obey. They're going to concern themselves more with pushing up those minions in the duo lane totally and trying to get that fire minion wave as far away as possible. But they got to hurry back for the defense. Mousesports are ready to start pushing on the right-hand side and split the focus of Obey as much as possible between left and right lane.
They're trying to set up a trap for Xaliea, but Xaliea not going to bite quite yet. Cherryo trying to find the kill onto iRaffer, but only finding that one crit. Getting a little bit of a damage check. Nothing too bad about that one.
Does the monkey work like that?
Oh,
if it had been at the very end?
Yes. Actually, I totally forgot about that. You could easily follow Athena through the Defender of Olympus.
That's so crazy.
If you can, just make sure that that's the last target hit.
He might have even been looking for it, but unfortunately, there was a minion wave like right there, so it kind of bounced over to the wave right when he looked for it, so there was just no chance.
I don't know about wanting to teleport
Where were they
into
going?
5. Probably under the Titan.
Yeah, maybe if Thatcher was going, then that would have been a bad idea.
Yeah.
Good call.
It would have looked cool, though.
Yeah, it would look sick.
It's like, I did that. You probably get an achievement for doing that.
I bet so. That'd be a good one if there isn't one. Just, who's defending Olympus now? I just named it. Call it that.
Fair enough. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Susanoo has the same mechanic as well, so you're able to follow people through. And that mechanic is definitely a hard counter to Giannis more than anyone else, trying to catch him as he's going through the portals. He's such a slippery god that those two specific gods are the reasons that you're looking to pick them into a Giannis.
Well, Mousesports are ready to start pushing down this right-hand lane. The minions in duo have been pushed up by now. Obey Alliance are going to have to give some attention over to that duo lane. And it's Ataraxia they send over. iRaffer absorbed the big proc out from BigManTingz, that East Staff Soul Reaver Soul Gem combo. Dardez goes in on PrettyPriMe on the backside and has him very well controlled. Looks like Aegis has already had to come out just from the pressure from the support.
And Cherryo is zoning out Ataraxia on the left side of the map. Right side, Phoenix very low. Spudio using the Petrify. Nika disengaging, but Twig off the mark yet again.
The apple's going to be enough. BigManTingz draws first blood in this engagement. iRaffer goes forward. Phoenix does eventually end up falling, but it's Dardez who jumps in, and PrettyPriMe is the target. BigManTingz with a double kill brings him down. They turn their attention on the right side towards iRaffer and eliminate him as well. Cherryo finds that kill. 5v2. Ataraxia goes to the back, is able to get rid of Cherryo, trying to dash away, avoids the knockup from Dardez, but it's too much damage from Tingz.
Just doesn't have the defensive relics to survive. It's now a 4-on-1. Only a Xaliea left alive. Hold that thought. It's a deicide as Mousesports come back in game 2, stretching it to a game number 3.
Man, so much work was done by Tingz in the back end of that team fight. I mean, he has done so much cooldown from the Chronos pin and got so many rotations of abilities off. Spudio as well did a lot of work. We can't stop talking about Dardez, but I mean, Mouse bouncing back in game 2 looked great.
29-8 after 31 minutes of play. Dardez is my personal MVP. The way he was able to pilot that Bacchus was truly impressive. Being able to find the last hits, set up his teammates, save his teammates as well. He was doing it all as a support.
Yeah, Dardez really did have an excellent game. You heard him. That's at least our recommendation for MVP here, as I got to agree with Toli. But what about you all? Go ahead and vote for us now in the Mixer poll and let us know what you think, because we're just about ready to move into Game 3 in a moment here.
That's true.
We got to have a desk and everything first, obviously, but I mean, Game 3 bonus Smite Could you have asked for it to be closer than this, totally?
No, honestly, I can't. In the same fashion that these games were won, between Obey winning it in the first game, Mouse in the second, very similar story where they had a little bit of a lead. They got one great team fight win, and then all of a sudden blowing the door wide open.
Yeah, and there's some sets, right, where one team looks dominant, even if it's 1-1, like maybe they make a mistake late or something like that, and one team looks better. That's not been the case. These two teams, they look so even right now, so I'm so excited. Let's get over to the desk and have their thoughts on that game, too.
Well, 2008, the hi-rez put out a song called Hate to Say I Told You So, and I'm listening to it right now. Mouse won the game. It was going to happen. Great draft. I actually got a chance to kind of yell at Alpha Jackal and Mixer chat. Hunbats was the pick to really deal with this competition.
I think one thing is also just the fact that, like, iRaffer and Twig, after that team fight, that really set the pacing for the rest of the match, because things were relatively even up until Obey just get absolutely slaughtered, and then once that goes down, you're stuck with CaptainTwig and iRaffer being forced into this punching bag position for the team, where they're trying to clearly set up the initiation, set up Prime so he can get some damage off, but it just never really seemed to pan out well for them in the end, because there was just way too much interrupt factors coming forward for Mouse. Petrify, you've got Discordia Strive sending off into madness, and that's not even involving her golden apple that can spread if everybody's grouped up, which also posed a separate bunch of issues because of the fact that Obey's composition kind of relied on everybody being grouped up together, and Mouse's is ideal for trying to separate teams.
And here, listen, the tank Naja, the tanky jungler setup man gameplay that CaptainTwig made a name for himself on, to be honest with you, I just don't see it translating. In fact, you see across the way, Dardez, who's actually our most valuable player, goes in the other direction. Last item, Soul Reaver. And sure, you could say that, you know, he was a little bit ahead, but what I don't want to hear is the word troll. This is, everybody likes to use, oh, it's different, it's weird, it's a troll. No, Bacchus' whole job is to lower the kill threshold. Soul Reaver makes perfect sense. CaptainTwig going, I'm a setup man, so I'm going to be tankier. I love where Dardez says, I'm a setup man, and I will do more damage.
In fact, I'd even make the argument that if you are ahead as a Bacchus, you should probably be going for the Soul Reaver last time. You may as well. It's a bit of a win more item when you're in that support role position, but because Dardez had the Soul Reaver, he didn't have to worry about flopping to take the proc of that Soul Reaver. He could just apply it immediately with the Intoxicate, and not only that, but you also just have the Drunken factor coming forward, where then everybody's just moving around uncontrollably, and that is already difficult enough to deal with, and plus you got to worry about the rest of Mouse collapsing on top of you. So I really like the way that Dardez choose to play this.
Yeah, great job from the support player, wins the MVP. Great job from Mouse in general, wins the third or the second game, bringing us to the third game. Picks and